Wave after wave of cavalry archers swept forward, each releasing dozens of arrows before wheeling away in the traditional Parthian shot that had defeated Romans and Byzantines. Conservative estimates say 30,000 arrows in the first 10 minutes. The Crusader line bent but didn't break. Shields locked. Men fell. Gaps filled. Discipline held against the storm through sheer willpower and 3 weeks of hardening in hell. But Turkish tactics were working. Crusader casualties mounted. Gaps appeared that couldn't be immediately filled. The wings began to buckle under sustained pressure. Turkish cavalry pressed closer, sensing weakness like sharks smelling blood. Infantry prepared to follow up, to turn disorder into rout, to finish what arrows had started. The Sultan's banner moved forward. Victory was minutes away. At exactly noon, 6 hours after dawn, Barbarossa gave the signal that would break an empire. Trumpets sounded. The Crusader center opened like gates of hell. From within emerged 500 fresh knights, the Imperial Guard on the last strong horses in the army. They formed the ancient Germanic formation that had crushed Romans 1,000 years earlier, the Iron Wedge, the Sultan. Watching from his command hill, felt the first cold touch of fear penetrate his confidence. Those weren't exhausted, knights barely able to sit their horses. Those were fresh warriors on powerful destriers that looked like they could run forever. The wedge formation was already building speed. And Turkish cavalry that had pressed close for the kill suddenly realized they had no room to maneuver. They'd been lured into exactly where Barbarossa wanted them, bunched together. Unable to use mobility, that was their greatest strength. God mit uns! God with us! The battle cry erupted from 2,000 throats as every mounted crusader joined the charge. The Imperial Guard's wedge formation built momentum down the gentle slope. 500 fresh knights on powerful horses, each man and mount carrying 600 pounds of armor and weapons, moving as a single organism of destruction. Behind them, 1,500 more knights, exhausted but fueled by rage and desperation, formed a second wave. The sight was magnificent and terrible. Turkish cavalry archers who'd pressed close for the kill suddenly faced their nightmare. No room to wheel away. No space to use their bows. The crushing weight of Western heavy cavalry bearing down at full gallop, building to 40 miles per hour. Some tried to flee. Others, braver or more foolish, tried to stand with raised spears. Neither mattered. 30,000 arrows meant nothing against full-plate armor at close range. The lead knights, Markwart of Neuburg among them, lowered 18-foot lances. The formation was geometrically perfect, a spear point of steel and horseflesh aimed directly at the Turkish center where the Sultan's best troops stood. Behind them thundered 2,000 tons of steel and flesh and concentrated murder. The Sultan felt real fear for the first time in 20 years of ruling Anatolia. His troops were bunched. Disordered from their aggressive pursuit, the Crusader charge was building unstoppable speed. Impact came like a freight train hitting a crowd. The Iron Wedge struck the Turkish center at 40 miles per hour with the kinetic energy of 500 car crashes happening simultaneously. Lances designed to penetrate the finest armor punched through men like skewers through meat, often impaling 2 or 3 bodies before shattering from the force. The crushing weight followed immediately, war horses weighing 1,500 pounds each, trampling anything that fell. Men died with rib cages crushed into their lungs. Skulls split open like melons under hooves. Intestines squeezed out of bodies, like toothpaste from tubes. The first rank of hussars shattered their lances and drew sabers without breaking stride. The second rank's lances struck over their shoulders, creating a second wave of impalement. The third rank fired pistols point blank into faces already destroyed by lance points. 3,000 German knights became a single organism of destruction, moving through Turkish formations like a threshing machine through wheat. The sound was overwhelming, thunder of hooves mixed with screams. The crash of steel on steel. Bones breaking. Men dying. Turkish cavalry archers, undefeated for decades, broke completely. Elite Sipahi cavalry tried to countercharge, but were swept aside like leaves before a hurricane. Janissaries, who terrorized battlefields from Baghdad to Budapest, found themselves in open ground, facing armored momentum they couldn't stop with courage or skill. Their scimitars bounced off plate armor. Their arrows at close range were useless. You can't stop an avalanche by throwing pebbles at it. Then came the moment that would echo through centuries and redraw maps. Barbarossa himself, leading the central wedge at 68 years old. Spotted the prize, Sultan Kilij Arslan's command position, the green banner gleaming in midday sun. The Polish king spurred toward it, 3,000 knights following their emperor into legend. The Sultan watched his guard cavalry scattered like children's toys. He watched his janissaries, undefeated for 3 centuries, break and run like panicked civilians. He witnessed German lances approaching his personal position at the speed of divine judgment. He had perhaps 90 seconds to contemplate how badly he'd miscalculated before fleeing on a ceremonial horse. Abandoning everything. War chest containing enough gold to fund kingdoms. Personal effects worth fortunes. The sacred banner that was supposed to guarantee victory, the charge didn't stop. Knights and supporting cavalry poured through the camp like a steel flood that killed everything in its path. Ottoman soldiers, confused by conflicting orders and panicked by the sheer violence, broke entirely. Units that had besieged Vienna for 60 days dissolved in 60 seconds. Ahmed, a Janissary veteran of 20 campaigns, later testified, "The very earth shook. The sky filled with demons in steel. My brothers who'd faced death 1,000 times threw down their arms and fled like women and children. The slaughter became systematic. Christian cavalry pursued without mercy. 3 weeks of watching comrades die from starvation, and poisoned water demanded payment in Turkish blood. The killing continued until darkness made identification impossible, and exhausted cavalry could no longer lift their swords. Ottoman soldiers threw away weapons, armor, anything that slowed flight. At exactly 2 p.m., 2 hours after the charge began, the convergence happened. Duke Frederick's forces burst from Iconium's eastern gates just as fleeing Turks from the field battle reached the city. The collision was catastrophic. Thousands of Turkish warriors seeking safety behind supposedly impregnable walls instead found crusaders pouring out, trapped between Barbarossa's pursuing force and Duke Frederick's emerging troops. The Seljuk army faced complete annihilation on ground, carpeted with their own dead. What followed wasn't battle, but execution. Crusader knights, their blood rage at maximum after 3 weeks of hell, showed mercy to absolutely no one. Turkish soldiers caught between 2 forces had nowhere to flee. The killing became mechanical, swords rising and falling like harvest scythes working through human wheat. Bodies piled so high they formed barriers that men had to climb. Blood turned dusty ground into mud that sucked at boots. Conservative estimates? 15,000 Turkish dead in 6 hours. Some chroniclers claimed 40,014. The reality probably fell between 20,000 warriors died for one sultan's arrogance, fewer than 500 crusader casualties, a 40-to-1 kill ratio that military science called impossible. 22 days later, Frederick Barbarossa drowned crossing a river in Armenia. The man who'd survived 40 years of warfare died in waist-deep water, but on May 18th, 1190, he'd proven that genius matters more than numbers, that heavy cavalry properly used becomes unstoppable, that desperate men with nothing to lose become the most dangerous force on any battlefield. Subscribe to Great History for more battles where impossible odds met tactical brilliance and Europe's fate hung on courage, steel, and one 68-year-old emperor who refused to accept defeat.